Hi guys, I wanted to go over an example, and I actually did do a video on this example, but for some reason the audio was messed up, so I'm redoing it, but I'm gonna go ahead and just explain what I did. So this was the problem, and the reason why I'm going over completing the square with a very difficult example is because this is actually the hardest method to do for like quadratics and where they're not so easy to solve. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and just go over what I did here. So the first thing obviously that I did here was divide by 3. That is because you have to make a equal to 1, okay? So we have 3x squared plus 2x plus 8 equals 0, and I just divided by 3 on both sides. And of course I got x squared plus 2/3 x plus 8/3 equals 0, right? Okay, so I went ahead and rewrote. I labeled A, B, and C here. So A is 1, B is 2/3, and C is 8/3, right? So then I just rewrote the formula, and I went ahead and I subtracted 8/3 on both sides. So then what I did was I put x squared plus 2/3 x, and then plus a third term. I named that C1, okay? And then I said negative 8/3 plus C1. So when you add a third term to one side, you add a third term to the other side because you need to find the third term so that this is a perfect square quadratic, right? So then I went ahead and just relabeled my A, B, and C. So obviously we only have A and B here. So A is 1 and B is 2/3, right? So I put them right over here. So then I went ahead and so I used this formula, and this is a very important formula to find the third term of the quadratic. It is C1 or C equals B over 2 quantity squared. So in this case, I had that B was 2/3, right? So then I went ahead and put it for my B here. So B equals 2/3. I put it right here. And then I divided it by 2 and I squared it. So doing all of that math, I got at the very end that C1 was 1 over 9. So I went ahead and I added, so I basically added this here, so then I added this over here as well. So then I got 1x squared plus 2/3 x plus 1 over 9 equals negative 8 over 3 plus 1 over 9, right? Okay, so this is where it gets a little tricky. So I went ahead and just simplified the negative 8/3 plus 1 over 9. I just added it together by getting the common denominator, and at the end I got 1x squared plus 2/3 x plus 1 over 9 equals negative 23 over 9. So that's not the difficult part, right? So then I relabeled A, B, and C because it's very important for this problem, because what I'm about to show you is a formula, which is over here. This is where it gets tricky, and this was a formula that I didn't really know about until much practice and much research, that you actually write it this way when you are trying to complete the square. So we have 1x squared plus 2/3 x plus 1 over 9, right? I basically changed it to this form here. So that means that 1x squared plus 2/3 x plus 1 over 9. So really it's ax squared plus bx plus c equals a times the quantity x plus b over 2, and then all of that squared. So again, I relabeled a and b. I said that a is 1 and b is 2/3. So I went ahead and wrote it, and I put that this was equal to 1, which is a, times the quantity x plus 2/3 divided by 2 quantity squared. So then I went ahead and simplified this part, 2/3 over 2. I did it over here, and I got 1/3 after simplifying the fraction, right? So then I got x plus 1 over 3 quantity squared, right? So, so basically, after doing that, the formula that's this, remember I said that a times x plus b over 2 quantity squared is actually going to be the same as this, and we know that ax squared plus bx plus c was negative 23 over 9, right? So I made it equal to negative 23 over 9 over here. So x plus 1/3 quantity squared equals negative 23 over 9. And then I went ahead and I took the square root of both sides. So after doing that, I crossed out that square root, and I got x plus 1 over 3 equals, and then I did plus or minus. So remember, always do plus or minus when you're taking square root. So I did plus or minus the square root of negative 23, and then I went ahead and split it up. So I said x plus 1/3 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1 over, or times the square root of 23, all over the square root of 9, and the square root of 9 is 3, right? So, we know that the square root of negative 1, is actually I. So that's why I put this here. The square root of negative 1 is I. So then I got x plus 1/3 equals plus or minus I square root of 23 all over 3. And then I went ahead and I subtracted 1/3 on both sides. And I got x equals negative 1/3 plus or minus I square root of 23 over 3. Now, I went ahead and wrote it a few ways in case your professor ever writes it a different way. So x equals negative 1/3 plus I square root of 23 over 3, or x equals negative 1/3 minus I square root of 23 over 3, or you can also say x equals negative 1 plus I square root of 23 all over 3, or x equals negative 1 minus I square root of 23 all over 3. So that is the best way that I can explain this problem, guys. I'm so sorry if, like, I couldn't do, because the thing is, it took me, like, almost 20 minutes to do this problem, and because this audio didn't come out correctly, I wasn't able to, I don't want to upload it, so, I'm going to upload this video instead. So if anybody does have any questions over this, please do let me know. But yeah, I really wanted to go over an example like that, in where that is very difficult to solve by completing the square. So with that being said, guys, if anybody does have any questions whatsoever over this problem, please do let me know. And also please like, comment, and or subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.